this is Preeti from It's a Pretty Chat. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm introducing to you an amazing artist who is new and upcoming, and he's come a long way from the time he began. He is a scientist by profession, but I promise you his heart is full of art. He is known for his very hyper realistic flowers and art that he makes, and I am so blown away with all the work that he's done out there and he's doing, and I'm hoping what he shares today does the same to you as it did to me. So please welcome Jaycee Gaspar. Hi, welcome to the show, Jaycee. So nice to have you. I cannot thank you enough for being on this show. Thank you once again. Welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to speak to your audience here and for you all to start a conversation with me and with all of us here in the crafting community.
Jaycee, I know you're fairly new to the crafting world, isn't it? Do you mind sharing how you came into the crafting world and how did it all start? Because not many of us, I'm guessing not many know. I know you have a great followers in IG, but you're still getting out there. People are still knowing you and things like that. But just tell us something about you, how you came into this, and yeah.
Yeah, so I started back in 2015 and I started pretty quietly. I wasn't really posting anything to Instagram. I was simply just creating for myself. And at the time, I was looking at ideas for Pinterest, was my sole source, and of course, many of the great card makers on YouTube. And it wasn't until this time, actually last year, that I opened up Instagram and realized that there was a whole nother realm, a whole nother group of creatives out there. And then I could pinpoint specific people that inspired me from the beginning. Some of them were Aga. A lot of them come from the Altenew team, Laurie Wilson, Therese. But then I started finding people like you, Preeti. I started following other male crafters as well. And that's basically when it started to just take off for me in my mind, was meeting all these different people and connecting with people on Instagram.
Awesome, awesome. So, I mean, now, do you have another profession, right? You're not an artist by profession, are you?
No, I work full time as a medical laboratory scientist. So, what that entails is if you've ever gotten blood work at the hospital, I intercept those samples and I perform testing on those. Or there are many, many different body fluids out there. So,
Yeah.
and I test them by DNA. So, it's definitely completely unrelated, complete total opposite of crafting, very methodical thinking. And so, yeah, creative, being on Instagram and being a card maker is just the complete opposite realm, right, of my full-time job.
So why, I mean, why paper crafting? Why card making? I mean, there's so many other way, there's so many ways of, I mean, there's so many outlets for artists out there, right? What
Right.
drew you specifically to paper crafting?
That's it's so hard. Before I started card making, what I was doing quietly without any sort of social media was I was painting, I was brush lettering, I was watercoloring, and I had all of these materials already. And it just seemed simple enough, right? The stamps seemed very indispensable. I could go to any big box store and they were readily available. So why not add this to my list? And I had no idea it was just going to become this huge thing, this thing that was going to take all my time after my full-time job, So unfortunately, I don't even know the answer to that. And then as I started joining different companies, it just did become sort of a job as well, and as part of something to look forward to after my full-time work. So I don't know how to answer that one, Preeti. I wish I don't even know the answer for myself. So
I'm sure you would have a better answer a couple of months later down the lane than what it is really, right? I mean, you're still new into
yeah.
it. So, how did you get? I mean, I know. Did crafting companies? How did you get to know crafting companies? How did you come into the limelight? I mean, I know you've been social media. This will be a question that many of us ask. We've been on social media for so long. We've been doing all this work
Mhm.
out there, but still, there are many of us who have not been yet tapped into. So, how did that work out for you? How did you get tapped into it?
I wish I could pinpoint this specific time because I didn't start my first guest design until I um, was with Alton. Oh, actually, my first guest design was British Monroe, and so that's where I feel like I feel really grateful for my first opportunity. And it wasn't long until after I launched Instagram. And I mean, I know Instagram has their algorithms, right? And it's knowing social media and knowing social media marketing and how often you have to post, who you have to tag. But for me, it wasn't so much that. It was like, hey, look what I made. And I hope that you all can be inspired as well. And um, I don't know that one either. My first design with Altitude, the one where it felt like it started to keep going for me was when I was just sharing some of the stuff that I had from them already, some of the things I bought personally, and tagging them and showing them what I made and how much of a fan I was, how much of a loyal customer I am, and I was at that point for them as well. So, um, and one thing I've always learned is just to be kind. You know, I know I couldn't really compare myself to others at that point because I just started. Um, but I don't know. At that point, what made me so different? I was just posting things that I loved and sharing it with you all over on Instagram.
Absolutely. Do you think at any point you'll make card making your full-time job and get out of your science world, or is this going to be like, how does that look for you?
I've thought about that as well. You know, as things have quickly taken off with the introduction of my own YouTube channel, it has taken up a lot of my time, and I feel very gracious that I am able to do my full time job and also this, what I consider my part time job. Um, I would love to become a full time card maker. More specifically, I guess uh, a stamp designer is what I could see myself potentially carrying forward to do. But at this point, it still feels very organic. You know, I'm trying not to overcommit to either place, but just trying to keep positive and trying to stay optimistic about what card making can do for me, as well as my full time job.
Do you illustrate? Do you illustrate stuff? Do you do illustration?
No, I don't do, I wish I could. I don't consider myself a drawer at all. I consider myself more of a colorist. So I would love to learn. I've always been a huge advocate for education.
Sure.
I hope that one day I could learn properly and go take a formal class about any sort of art form. But at this point, it just isn't possible.
Is there a reason why you craft? Other
Right.
than the fact that you have been noticed and stuff like that, but for yourself, just for your own personal thing, why do you craft? Has craft changed you in any way? Yeah.
Yeah. When I spoke to Samantha, she's at Koi Crafting. She asked the same question during her Dudes Craft 2 interview. And one of the things that I had to think about and really meditate on was, you know, crafting did open up the other realm of, I guess, my brain and my thinking, right? Like I said earlier, I'm a full-time scientist. I'm very methodical. And being a creative, creating cards was another way to explore the other half of my thinking. And so, yes, it's made me much more optimistic once I realized that it wasn't all social media, creating and connecting. And it has sort of helped my mental balance, right? Because, I mean, working in a hospital in any setting is going to be very stressful. And this was something to look forward to at the end of the day. So that's what I really enjoyed about creating cards, about any sort of paper craft in general, and being artistic in general as well.
Sure. Would you is there one particular person that you could call out as a mentor for you or an inspiration for you, or is it multiple people out there?
Well, I guess I have learned from a few different new aspects, right, of from joining Instagram. One of the places I did start formally, I guess, taking classes was being part of the alternate educator certification program, because I just don't, at this point, I work full time. I don't have the luxury of physically attending classes.
Yeah.
So AECP was a great way for me to feel like I could be fulfilled in satisfying the educational realm of crafting, learning formally from other people. So there's that whole conglomerate of people over on AECP that I mean, Instagram is full of opportunities and full of people with many fantastic ideas, and it's hard for me to pinpoint who exactly um, I draw inspiration from, except for my own personal style.
So your inspiration for you comes from multiple places versus just one particular place, right? That's what you're trying to
Exactly.
say. So
Exactly.
while we're talking about inspiration, how exactly do you define your style? Like, all of us have different styles. What would you say your style is?
Right. I guess the wonderful thing about being a full-time scientist, right, is that some of that stuff does bleed into my creative realm. I
Yeah.
still feel like everything I place on cards is very methodical. They're in my mind, there are reasons for me to put things in specific places, because I guess sort of my philosophy has always been, you can color beautiful flowers, you can create the most beautiful scene with very specific critters, but in my mind, and then this is just my personal opinion, is everything has its place on a card. And so my favorite place to draw inspiration from is from the golden ratio mathematical interpretations of art, such as the way that Da Vinci interpreted art, Michelangelo, the wonderful intermixing, I guess, just juxtaposition of science and art. And that's what I love to do the most as far as my personal style. I like it to look hyper real. I'm sure, I know that's what a lot of people have said about the way I color flowers.
Yeah.
And I just love the flower, the way it looks in real life, just this hyper real feeling. Because, and this is sort of a side note as well, like flowers are universal. We give them to say I'm sorry. We give them to say I love you, thank you. And I think that's just what's so beautiful about creating a very deliberate and colorful arrangement.
Yeah, I totally agree to you, because I can relate to you so much, JC, because I'm a medical brain myself. So when
Yeah.
I'm making my cards as well, it's all about positioning it. It's not just the coloring aspect, but what do you do after that is the biggest thing, right? Yeah. So no,
Right.
that's a valid point. And I think many of us out there struggle with that, is, okay, we have done this part, but how do we bring them all together? How do we make it look cohesive? So that's a real,
Right.
but what would you tell people who don't have that methodical brain like you have, or the scientific brain that you have? How would you or how would you inspire people otherwise?
That's a hard one to answer. Because I mean, for as long as I could remember, right, it's always been about science. And I think one of the other best places for me to draw inspiration is to get out of this electric sort of technological inspiration, is to get out, look outside. And I mean, sometimes it is as silly. I love doing this when I'm at the Botanic Gardens here in Denver, is counting, looking at not just what the flower looks like, but what other structures can you interpret? What does the background look like around your flowers as you're looking at it? And I've seen people do the daily photo inspiration challenge, I think, where you just take one photo that inspires you, and you realize that like maybe as you're resting, as you're sleeping, how these thoughts do come back out as sort of your creative muscle and working that sort of creative idea, creative energy. So
Uh,
yeah.
so other than making card, I know you're a busy guy. You have your own full-time job and you make
Yeah.
cards. Do you have any other hobbies?
Not at this
Oh,
point, not anymore.
yeah.
I used to knit, I used to crochet, but this is it. This has become my
Really?
part-time job after my full-time job. And so I come home, I rest for a little bit, and right away I've gotta make cards again. So I do this nearly every day now.
Oh, sure. Do you have any plans of incorporating your crochet into card making? Because I do see that a lot with so many card makers.
Right. I love seeing that sort of intermixing of these different sort of hobbies too,
Sure.
because I do that myself where I see from different artists, but I at this point I'm not really sure I would love to, but um, I know that recently there was a um, string art sort of deal that was going on with card making, and I thought that was really inspirational. But that's as far as I can go, I think, with with the art and craft into card making. So.
Sure, sure. As we wrap up, JC, what advice or how could you inspire upcoming artists as to what is that one thing that they need to do to, to be out there?
Right. I'll preface that question by saying, by any means, I don't feel like any sort of success story. I don't feel like any sort of role model. It's sort of odd to think that like people do look up to my story and what I've done as far as getting noticed and putting myself out there. For me, I guess what I did do deliberately to sort of put my story out there was, you know, you can make beautiful cards, right? It's and this is actually stuff that I learned from Justine Hovey, I think is how you say her
Yeah,
name.
the scene.
She had a video about joining design teams.
Sure.
And you do, it's not just becoming an artist, it's about being a marketer.
Yeah.
It's about using the right hashtag. I'm not just fulfilling my Instagram and my grid. It's about interacting with people and talking to people and what you like about their art. Because then um, I don't necessarily believe in getting good energy back, but I feel like you should put out good energy just because it feels right. And um, so yeah, being interactive was one of the biggest ways I found that I got, I guess, noticed.
Sure.
And one of the things about social media is it is good and bad, right? Um, it could be a realm of negativity,
Yeah.
being obsessed about the numbers, but if I feel like that's so hard for me, for myself as well to sort of push aside, right? It's about working hard
Yeah.
and learning and constantly learning about what you can improve on, you know. So I guess that's my second point. To be positive and keep optimistic because not everybody's creative journey is going to be the same. You know, I guess for me, I've been pretty fortunate as far as getting right noticed, but uh, just to interact with people, I guess be positive, connect with people, and constantly learn. I guess that was my other point was to constantly learn from one another. For me, it's always been being consistent, right? I guess if you've looked at my grid, right, I'm very organized, but it's about making a schedule for yourself and setting small goals. I want to post this many times a week. I want to grab the attention of this specific company. I would love to design for them. And it's not going to be easy, right? I like I said earlier, I do this right when I come home, and I've had to work around my schedule. I it's crafting them all, and being physically active is also important in your creative energy. So I do have to make the time to do this, to create cards, and as long as I feel like I am fulfilled by it and that I feel like it's giving me good energy and not making me stressed, then I'm going to keep doing it. And I think that's the most important thing, is to just stay positive and be kind. Definitely be kind to one another. This isn't easy for anybody. And it, I always say this to people who interact with me, who are mothers, have raised children, and do this full time. This is, to me, that is impossible. I could never do that. So I have to give that to all of you who are mothers, who raise your own kids, and make this your hustle, that make this your job. So
Yeah, I think while you said it's nice to be kind, which is an amazing thing to do, one of the things that the crafting world is all about, kindness. But I think the kindness begins from ourselves too. We need to learn to be kind for what we are doing. I think many of us beat ourselves down a whole lot by saying that I'm not good enough, or my art is not good enough to be noticed. I think kindness begins from within, right? Wouldn't you
right,
say
exactly.
that? Yeah. Like, like for you yourself, you never thought that out there are companies waiting to see Jaycee's work, but I think your heart that you poured into your work is what companies noticed, and then your story began. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, exactly. It's because I did say the same things myself. What I said instead was, I am not an artist. I am a scientist, right? I am not trained to make art. And so I changed that. I found ways to make it worth my time to learn. And that meant picking up a few books, watching different YouTube tutorials, not just on my favorite card makers, but other creatives out there, people who were doing sculpture, who were doing just even things like simple acrylic pouring on canvases. Like, those are different realms of being creative and thinking creatively. And
Yeah.
then by that point, that's when I started to consider myself as an artist, right? Because then I was learning and I was acting that creative. So
Yeah. For those of you who don't know yet, Jaycee does have a video channel on his YouTube under Jaycee Gaspar, but he also does makes videos for Altenew. So uh, subscribe to Altenew's video channel, and you will see a lot of Jaycee's work right there. Right, Jaycee? Am I right on that?
yep, exactly.
So, Jaycee, I know you are doing videos for Altenew. What are the other companies that we can see you working for right now? I mean, what are the other places we can see Jaycee's work?
Let's see. I did do a few guest videos for Waffle Flower, and that was a great opportunity. And I'm also on the creative team for Ink on 3. So some of my work is over on their blog as well. And where else? And right now, that's all I could really commit myself to, was just those 3. And then, of course, my own personal channel. I do a lot of the Altenew releases there. But I also do try to incorporate other companies as well, because I know not everybody has the same taste for Altenew.
Sure.
But it's not so much that. I guess for me, it's about teaching what I know, and I know a lot of people have asked about this sort of methodical thinking of creating cards. So I do have those tutorials as well, and you can incorporate what I have to say into your projects as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good. Is there any other social media other than Instagram and YouTube? Do you have any other platforms that users can
I'm sure
connect
some I'm sure people have seen me on Facebook, but unfortunately, right now I just don't use it. I,
with?
I, I, I don't know how to use it. I used it back in college, and I feel like I'm starting to relearn how to use Facebook again. So
Yeah.
that's a slow one. If you find me on there, feel free to add me, and I'll try to get to you. But right now, I'm still slowly working on that page.
All right. All right, Jaycee. So here is a little different sort of question. And I don't know if you get asked this question a lot. Um, how is card making, a perspective of card making from a man's view of point? I see you doing a lot of floral images and stuff like that. And I myself, I struggle a lot making guys card. It's so hard for me to make card for men. And how is it for you as a guy? I mean, what's your perspective? What's your take on the card making world and card making style?
Right. I I've seen a few different other male artists say, "Oh, there isn't a lot of male stamps out there."
Mm.
And with the introduction, oh, I don't know, introduction with Simon from Simon Says, or not Simon Says, Simon Hurley Create,
Mm.
people who haven't been afraid to put themselves out there, I think is the biggest step in getting out there as a male. And for me, I guess I never really cared about male or female. I love making floral cards. I'm just going to do what I love doing and own personal into that. So, as far as being surrounded by other females, my full-time job is the same way.
So,
Lab science has always been a very female-dominated industry, but from points earlier, it's doing what I want to do. It's being passionate about my work. So I'm passionate about being over at the lab science realm. I love doing card making and making cards for people. As far as it being male or female cards,
okay.
I'm going to give you what I love, and I hope that you appreciate that.
Yeah.
Is sort of my philosophy on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a really good, valid point. It doesn't matter who you are, male or female. It's what you do and what you put out there is more important than anything else. JC, I am so thankful for your heart and the way you shared your inspiration and what motivates you. And I'm so happy that you could be on our channel. And for all of you out there, I have included JC's links in my description box below. You can go to his YouTube channel. I have to tell you, I love watching his YouTube channel. One of the things that I like the most is he's so calm when he's explaining his videos. It's wonderful. He does an amazing job with his videos. So there's a link to his YouTube channel in my description box below. There's a link to his blog. I really recommend go to his blog, read up about how he does things and how he plans stuff with his cards. It's amazing. And also a link to his IG. And hope you'll all get to see the amazing work that he does. And hopefully, JC, we'll see you a lot more than just in Altenew and the other companies that you talked about, and a lot more of your work everywhere, JC.
Well, we'll see. We'll see where it takes me, but I'm very excited about the future. And thank you so much, Preeti, for incorporating me into your channel. I like I said earlier, I hope that this starts a conversation between many of you about what works, what doesn't work, and my story is just one perspective. So check out your favorite YouTubers. Don't be afraid to ask them where you want to go. And sometimes you do have to dress for the job. So yeah,
Yes, yes.
Thank you
Those
again
are
for
all
having me
really
here.
good advices, JC. They're all very good points. Thank you so much. And I really, really appreciate your time and all the best for everything, JC.
Thank you.